Mais um dia, mais uma live. Começando aí, live do dia 14 de janeiro. Hoje é quarta-feira. E a gente vai dar sequência aqui. Não vamos ver SQL hoje. Eu vou dar estudado em SQL em off. Hoje a gente vai dar uma olhada em Maven Gradle. Eu lembro de ter visto muito por cima o que era isso daqui. E aí que eu coloquei uma anotação pra mim há muito tempo, né? Adicionar pra eu aprender a fazer essas coisas. Não sei o que isso aqui pode estar ligado com isso aqui, né? Não lembro. Mas... na verdade, eu tô pensando em pular isso daqui e ir direto pro Spring Boot. E... Só que o Spring Boot é muita coisa também. Eu queria fazer só um projeto nele. Então, o que eu vou fazer é... Eu vou dar uma olhada em Build Tools. Se for muito avançado, muito complexo, eu divido. Eu começo meu projeto estudando Build Tools, estudando o SQL. E ao mesmo tempo eu começo a fazer algum projetinho em Spring Boot. Dito isso, deixa eu fechar isso daqui. A gente vai ver o que é Maven Gradle. Se a gente for no nosso Java Roadmap aqui, ele tá... Onde mesmo que ele tá? Aqui, ó. Build Tools, Maven Gradle Bezel. Functional Programming já viu. Web Frameworks eu vi por cima, mas vi. Sei que o Spring Boot é o principal. Vamos dar uma olhada aqui nas Build Tools. Aqui ele vai dar alguns artigos pra gente. Isso aqui parece interessante. Acho que eu vou dar uma olhada nesse daqui. Deixa eu ver se tem uma videoaula. Eu vou assistir uma videoaula depois também. Maven Gradle. Não, só Maven. Maven. Vamos ver se aparece alguma coisa. Maven Tutorial. Java Maven. Tem isso daqui. Vou procurar Java. Olha, tem um indiano que eu gosto, Maven Theory. O básico trabalhar com projetos Java. Ah, isso aqui é a própria documentação do Maven? Ah, isso aqui é... Não, então eu vou ler isso aqui pra caralho. Eu vou ler isso aqui parece ser o melhorzinho que a gente vai ter. Vou botar isso aqui em tela cheia. Dar um zoomzão. A gente vai ler aí. What is Maven? Maven é um framework? Não, né? Nossa, é porque a explicação pareceu muito que ele é um framework. Is Maven a framework? Use popular to provide the login. Bom, quando o Gemini tem que responder as coisas, ele nunca responde, né? Quando eu perguntar um negócio besta, ele vai lá e gasta toda a água do mundo respondendo. is build automation tool. Vou no banheiro. De volta aí. Tá, o Maven tem várias funções, então. Archetype.
Welcome back, aliens. I'm Navin Reddy from School Learnings, and today we are going to talk about Maven. Hold on, we have already heard about that in one of the videos, right? So if you have seen my last video, I've talked about Maven, but then after that, I have talked about different technologies like Hibernate, Spring, and then we are going to start with Rest now. So I want to make sure that you know this topic thoroughly, so let's start with it. So Maven is basically a build tool, and it is under a license of Apache. And if you go to Maven repository, there are lots of libraries available. But hold on, why do we even need a Maven thing? So basically, what happens, when you want to work with a new project, I mean, when you want to create a project, of course, you need some third-party libraries, right? Example, let's say if you want to create a project where you want to work with MySQL. So if you get a Java application, if you want to connect with MySQL, what you need is MySQL connector. So that's one of the dependencies you need. So you need a MySQL connector. The second thing is, let's say if you're also working with Spring. So when you work with Spring MVC, you need lots of dependencies, right? In fact, when you talk about Spring MVC, we need minimum at least 10 or 12 libraries, what you say, or Java files. For Hibernate, we require 10 or 11 libraries. Just imagine if you're working with all these frameworks, you have to download all this dependency by yourself. And that's a difficult thing, right? So if you want to download everything by yourself, that's not a good thing. Okay, even if you do that, you will say, okay, I'm a programmer, I will download everything from the internet. That's fine. The thing is, when you do it by yourself, when you download all the videos by yourself, the problem is, or not videos, the dependency by yourself, the problem is, in future, if you want to update it, so let's say from Spring 4, now you want to go for Spring 5, what you have to do is you have to again go to Spring repository, and you have to download those dependencies. And trust me, it's a pain, because first of all, you have to download the dependency. Second, you have to make sure that the dependency which you have downloaded for Spring is matching with the Hibernate dependency, right? And to solve this problem, we have a Maven repository. So Maven says, hey people, don't worry. Again, Maven has lots of advantages, like we have different goals to achieve. We can compile it, we can deploy using Maven. But here the important point for me is getting those jar files, right? Because when you work on a project, those jar files are very, very important to work with. Now question arises, how do you get those jar files? It's very easy actually. You have to go to Maven repository and say, hey Maven repository, I want Spring dependencies. Hey Maven repository, I want Hibernate dependencies. And Maven will say, okay, so these are your Spring dependencies, these are your Hibernate dependencies, and you got it. Okay, if you're thinking about what is dependency, the jar files, right? So if you need certain jar files to work with some technologies, you need those are called the dependencies. So Maven will give you those jar or library dependency to you. But hold on, is Maven a Superman to do all those things, or Superwoman to do all those things? Not exactly. So in Maven, you have to specify. So whenever you create a project, basically we have to remember some terms here. Now to understand Maven, you have to remember these terms. So first of all, the project. So what is project? Basically everything, whatever you create in Maven is basically a project. Now in that project, the most important file is this file, which is pom.xml. Now this is the file where you will mention everything. So if you need Hibernate, just mention there, hey, I want Hibernate. Or not in this way, but
Eu acho que tem aqui, né? Dependências. Aqui no caso ele tem várias dependências.
we have a different syntax. Okay, so we have to mention, hey, I need Spring. Again, not in this way. We have a different way of doing that. But this is the file where you have to mention to Hibernate, hey, I want, or to Maven, hey, I want these dependencies. The second thing you have to remember is something called as artifact ID, or let's go for group ID first. So next thing we need is group ID. Now what is group ID? See, there are different type of projects which built by different people, right, or different companies. So if I'm building 5 projects, I want to make sure that each of my project is unique throughout the world. Okay, now how do we make sure that, hey, I want these dependencies? The second thing we have to remember is something called as artifact ID, or let's go for group ID first. So next thing we need is group ID. Now what is group ID? See, there are different type of projects which built by different people, right, or different companies. So if I'm building 5 projects, I want to make sure that each of my project is unique throughout the world. Okay, now how do we make sure that you're having a project which is unique throughout the world? So you have to make sure that the artifact ID which you are using is unique. Let's say if I give our artifact ID as demo, is it unique throughout the world? Not exactly, right? Anyone can create a project with demo name. How about if I create a project name as ABC, ABC1234, ABC1234, the big name? There's a chance that the name might repeat, right? And that's why what we do is we combine the group ID and the artifact ID. So artifact ID will represent your project name and group ID will define your package. Example, let's say if I'm making a project and I'm working for Telesco, so it would be com.telesco. That's my group ID. So all the project which we build will be a part of com.telesco, and the project is, let's say, demo. So now we have com.telesco.demo. And of course, we have to make sure that we are not creating demo project once again, right? So that's your artifact ID, which is your demo, and your group ID is that com.telesco. Again, you can use the same thing as your package name. You can say com.telesco.demo.web. That's your package name, right? So you have to remember these terms, and your Maven will become very easy to you. So, okay, so now how do you mention in Maven that we want dependencies? So you can see it's a very simple POM file where you have dependency tab, dependencies tab. Now, if you want a Spring jar file, it's very easy. Just go to the official website of Spring, or, okay, so we can go to official website of Spring, you can copy that code. But then instead of going to individual website, like go to Spring website, go to Hibernate website, what you can also do is you can just go to MVN repository, which is a central repository for all the jar files. Just go there and search for Spring. It will give you a code. Just go to your POM file and paste, and you will get your project back. I mean, you will get all your dependencies. That's awesome, right? And trust me, it works like a magic. Now question arises, if you don't have that jar file in your machine, that means it is coming from the internet, right? So whenever you work with Maven, you have to make sure that you are connected with the internet, and that's where the problem starts. Every time you create a project, you have to make sure that you're connected with the internet. Okay, that's not the case. What happens is when you are using Spring dependency for the first time, let's say if you're using Spring 4.3.8 for the first time, it will get downloaded from the remote repository. So Maven has a remote repository from where you get all the jar files. But it also has a local repository. So in your machine, you'll be having a local repository. So every time you ask for a dependency now, it will first search for local repository. If it is not there, it will go to remote repository. Now, next time when you search for it, you already have that in local repository, right? So it will increase your performance, or you can say it will reduce the time it takes to download those dependencies. So that's an awesome thing, right? So we can use Maven to build our project, and we can get all the jar files. Again, we have not talked about everything in Maven. It's a very big topic. This video is important for you because if you want to learn about Spring, of course, all the project which you will build in Spring will be based on Maven. Okay. Now, Maven is not the only way to do that. We also have a way which is called as Gradle. Now, if you have ever worked on Android, we use Gradle there. But then for web projects, for Java projects, most of us, we use Maven. But okay, we can also use Gradle in Java as well, okay? So yeah, that's it. That's about this Maven concept. I hope you got something about this. And we also have a practical video for this. You can see that it will be coming somewhere in the suggestion videos. So that's it, guys.
Gostei da aula. Achei que ele foi direto ao ponto, achei bem bom, mas eu queria ver mais.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my For Kids video. Today we will start to learn Java project build tools, and our first build tool would be the Maven because it's most commonly used in Java world. We will take a look at the Maven basic concepts, its project structure, pom.xml file, how to declare properties, what is a repository, dependencies, scopes, and in the end I'll explain what is a transitive dependency. So after watching this video, you will be able to understand everything you need to start work with the Maven. What is the Maven? Maven is a project build automation tool. Such build tools like Ant, Maven, Gradle make building process simpler. It automates everyday developer goals like code compilation, tests running, dependency input, executable file creation, and so on.
Deixa eu só verificar um negócio aqui.
There are two types of project build tools, declarative and imperative. For instance, Ant was one of the first project build tool and it was imperative. It means that developer tell to an Ant how should everything be done, what you need to compile, where to copy files, project structure, and so on. Maven and Gradle are declarative project build tools. They know how to do everything. Developer tell to them what should be done, what dependencies he need, or what modules does he have. Declarative system dictates a project structure, knows where dependencies should be stored, and all another stuff. Maven unifies the approach to project assembly, so if you understand how does one Maven project work, you will know how does assembly. So if you understand stuff, Maven unifies the approach to project assembly, so if you understand how does one Maven project work, you will know how does any other project work. Maven approaches are defined by conventions, so it allows developer to form good practices for working with a project. Maven written on Java and designed primarily to work with Java projects. However, there are possibilities to work with another programming languages, but we will concentrate only on Java. Basic concepts. POM.xml. It's an abbreviation from Project Object Model. It's a file containing all configuration details about project assembly. An artifact. It's an executable jar var er file. .m2 folder. It's a path to local repository on your machine. Target folder. It's a folder where is stored an executable file, compiled classes, test reports, etc. Let's take a look at the real Maven project. We can see here default Maven project structure. Path src main java, where stored our project source code, and src test Java, where stored test source code. In root directory, we also have target folder with compiled classes, test reports, and Java archive file. Also, we have pom.xml file. Let's take a look at pom.xml file. In every pom.xml are standard XML and project tags. You do not need to understand it or learn. Let's take a look at Java target folder with compiled classes, test reports, and Java archive file. Also, we have pom.xml file. Let's take a look at pom.xml file. In every pom.xml are standard XML and project tags. You do not need to understand it or learn. It's constant for any pom.xml file. Also, here we see model version tag. It's necessary for Maven, but developer doesn't use it in work. First of all, are group ID, artifact ID, and version tags. Group ID and artifact ID necessary to uniquely name your project among all existing projects. Good practice is to write group ID as reversed name of website, like here in example. And also would be right to keep the same structure of folders in your project. An artifact ID. It's the name of your executable file. Version. It's a version of project. It's also be added to executable file name. Sometimes you can see the keyword snapshot. It's special qualifier which tells to the Maven that the project in active development stage, which have frequent version updates. No snapshot keyword. The keyword snapshot. It's special qualifier which tells to the Maven that the project in active development stage, which have frequent version updates. No snapshot keyword in version means that is release version of project. By default, Maven refreshes libraries marked as snapshot once a day in local repository. Release version not updates by the Maven. These three tags, also known as project coordinates, which are necessary for every project. You can run the projects only with the defined coordinates in pom.xml. All other configurations are defined by default in superpom. Note that every pom.xml file inherits all the default configuration from parent superpom.xml file, which is stored in Maven resources. For instance, in superpom.xml file are defined address to Maven central remote repository, default project structure, and so on. Next important tag is packaging, which defines what type of executable file we want to get. It can be jar, var, er, or pom. Jar means Java archive, var means web archive, er enterprise archive. Today we will take a look only on a jar packaging. Note that the Maven, unlike Ant, creates only one executable file by project, while with the Ant, developer can create many executable files. Next, info tags: name of a project, description of a project, and URL of a website. These tags only for information about our project. They are unnecessary. Next block is properties. You can declare your custom properties, which most commonly used to keep versions of dependencies in one place. As you see here, we have a gunit.version property with the 4.13.2 value, and we can use it in the code by declaring this syntax. So we can replace the version of the Apache commands by declaring property, let's name it commands lang 3 version, and print 3.12.0 and replace the version inside the dependency by writing this syntax. Hope you understand how to use it. Next tag is repositories.
Peraí que eu não entendi nada.
Which next block is description of a project and URL of a website. These tags only for information about our project. They are unnecessary. Next block is properties. You can declare your custom properties, which most commonly used to keep versions of dependencies in one place. As you see here, we have a gunit.version property with the 4.13.2 value, and we can use it in the code by declaring this syntax. So we can replace the version of the Apache commands by declaring property, let's name it commands lang 3 version, and print 3.12.0 and replace the version inside the dependency by writing this syntax. Hope you understand how to use it.
Entendi. Entendi agora. Aqui ele tá falando, ó, tem essa dependência aqui. E aí, tipo, pra ele não ficar colocando, né, toda hora, qual dependência que é, ficar alterando o código todo, ele cria uma variável, entre aspas, não sei se aqui chama variável, colocando no properties, e ali ele adiciona no version.
Next tag is repositories. By default, Maven downloads all libraries from Maven Central Repository, which URL is defined in superpom.xml file. If it's needed, you can declare repositories like this. Here we see the JCenter repository, and after that, Maven will look for dependencies also in this repository. Next most important block is dependencies. As you can see, when we declare a dependency, we specify group ID, artifact ID, and version of library. It's the coordinates of this library. Also, sometimes we need to specify scope. It means on which stage of project walking, this library would be allowed. Let's look at most used scope. It's a compile, provided, runtime and test. A compile, it's a default scope, means that the library allowed on all stages, code compilation, runtime and in tests. If you will not define any scope, it would be compile. For example, if we will remove the scope from the JUnit library, now this library would be on the compile scope. Next scope is provided. It means that the library would be allowed on the code compilation stage and test stage. Note that this library would not be included in Java archive file. Suppose that this dependency provided by the environment on which the project is launched, or this library simply doesn't need it in runtime stage. For example, it can be Lombok, which is used only on compile stage. Next, runtime scope. Library would be allowed on runtime and test stages. Note that library would not be allowed on code compilation stage. Example for this scope is a JDBC library. And the last scope is test. It means that this library would be allowed only while tests running. Also not included in jar, just because tests not included in jar at all. So we have looked at all scopes. Next, let me show you what is a transitive dependency. You may have met this concept. Transitive dependency is just a dependency which is exported by another dependency. For instance, last version of JUnit needs a Hamcrest dependency. We can see it in Maven window. Here in dependencies block, we see that the JUnit have the transitive dependency Hamcrest. But as you can see, we didn't declare this dependency in our pom.xml file. For most of the time, you have no need to think about that, because the Maven automatically downloads transitive dependencies. Next block is build, and it's necessary to configure your plugins. For example, here we configure the Maven compiler plugin, and we say that we want to compile our project in Java 8 version. We will take a closer look at this in next video. Finally, let me show
Marco Codes. Today we're going to talk about Maven nice and easy to go. The issue is
Só quero dar uma olhada aqui no que ele fez.
I know
aqui.
it's a Maven project because it has a POM XML file and a source folder, and we're going to check
It's a Maven project?
those out. I know it's a Maven project Maven tutorial. You can find
Maven.
its URL in the references section. I know it's a Maven project because it has a POM XML file and a source folder, and we're going to check those out in a second. But first of all, I want you to get the URL and clone the project in a directory of your liking. Now step inside the folder, have a look at the contents, and you can see, well, the POM XML file is there, the source folder is there, all good to go. The issue is we don't have Maven installed. Now step tutorial. You can find its URL in the references section. I know it's a Maven project because it has a POM XML file and a source folder, and we're going to check those out in a second. But first of all, I want you to get the URL and clone the project in a directory of your liking. Now step inside the folder, clone the project out in a second. But first of all, I want you to get the URL and clone the project in a directory of your liking. Now step inside the folder, have a look at the contents, and you can see, well, the POM XML file is there, the source folder is there, all good to go. The issue is we don't have Maven installed, and we need to start with the boring stuff, getting Maven up and running on your machine to do anything with that project. Now I'm going to show you a couple of simple ways to install Maven on your machine. If you're using Windows and are using Choco as the package manager, simply type Choco install Maven. If you're on Mac OS and you have Maven on your machine, if you're using Windows and are using Choco as the package manager, simply type
Não sabia que tinha um package manager para Windows. Deixa eu ver da onde é disso. Choco Package Manager Windows. Chocolate.
Type Choco install Maven. If you're on macOS and you have Brew installed, Brew install Maven. If you're on Linux like Ubuntu, apt install Maven. If you're on any other distribution, just use your favorite package manager, install Maven. I'm going to show you the Parman's version of installing Maven because it's actually quite simple. What I want you to do for that is browser, search for download Maven, pick the download Apache Maven link, scroll down a tiny bit, choose either the zip file or the tar.gz file. I'm going to go with the zip file here on Windows, download it, and extract it into any folder you like. In my case, that would be C user screencast code. Doesn't matter what folder. Hit extract. There we go, Apache Maven 385. One last thing to do, you need to add the Maven executable from inside the bin folder to your path variable. In the references, you'll find commands on how to do that for every operating system on the command line. I'm going to show you the visual way of doing that here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment variables from my account. Have a look at your path, edit, new variable, paste in the path to your directory /
Aqui você não pode ficar. Não pode ficar em frente à minha tela. Aí também não, né? Mas melhor que na frente da minha tela.
bin. Hit OK, OK, new terminal window, Maven-V. Here we go, we have a working Maven version 385. The Maven home should point to wherever you extracted Maven to.
Baixar o Maven aqui então. Aqui na documentação falou que era pra baixar. Binary aqui. Cadê pra Windows? Mas aí tem muito, tem daemon. Maven Windows Download. Deixa eu ver qual que ele mostrou.
Show you how to create a Java app.
And then you dash it. I'm going to show you the visual for upload it. Download Apache Maven link. Scroll down a tiny bit. Choose either the zip file or the download Apache Maven link. Scroll down a tiny bit. Choose either the zip file or the tar.gz file. I'm going to go with the zip file here on Windows. Download it. And extract it into any folder you like. In my case, that would be C user screencast code. Doesn't matter what folder. Hit extract. There we go, Apache Maven 385. One last thing to do, you need to add the Maven executable from inside the bin folder to your path variable. In the references, you'll find commands on how to do that for every operating system on the command line. I'm going to show you the visual way of doing that here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment variables for my account. Have a look at your path, edit, new variable, paste in the path.
Tá, vou fazer esse processo aqui. É uma Apache, aí eu baixei esse zip aqui. Aí que eu vou encerrar aqui, eu vou tirar aqui só pra eu extrair aqui, porque tem bastante coisa aqui na minha pasta de download, tem que dar uma limpada nela. Structure. Here. Ué. Tá, eu vou tacar isso aqui no documentos, eu acho. Você quer ir lá fora, Vivi? Tá, o que eu tenho que fazer?
To your directory /bin. Hit OK. That here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment variables for my account. Have a look at your path, edit, new variable,
Peraí, mas não abre essa tela
doing
não.
that bin folder to your path variable. In the references, you'll find commands on how to do that for every operating system on the command line. I'm going to show you the visual way of doing that here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment variables for my account. Have a look at your path, edit, new variable, paste in the path to your directory /bin. Hit OK, OK, new terminal window, Maven-V. Here we go, we have a working Maven version. Simple, just enter environment variables for my account here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment.
Deixa eu só... Então, whatever.
Variables for my account. Have a look at your path, edit.
O que é pra
I'll show you
entrar,
the
mano? Peraí.
visual way of doing that here in Windows for now. Simple, just enter environment variables for my account.
Não foi isso que abriu, mano. Environment for my account. Aqui, agora sim.
Have a look at your path, edit.
Cadê? Edit.
New variable, paste.
Porra, calma aí. Ele some, mano, quando você não tá... Ah, não, tá aqui. Eu já tô com a tela tirando.
Paste in the path to your direct.
New path. Aí eu vou colar o coisa que ele falou ali, né? Vou colocar aqui, Ctrl C, new, ok. Ok, path. Aê! Tá.
Directory/bin. Hit OK, OK, new terminal window.
Ah não, acho que coloquei errado. Environment for your account. Edit. Ah, é do bin?
Maven/edit, new variable, paste in the path
É do bin, tá certo.
to your directory/bin.
Não, o meu não tá no bin. Ou tá. A parte Maven e a parte bin. Eu tô tendo problemas técnicos, cara. Editing. Não, não é o VS Code, não. Edit. New. Ok. Ok.
Bin. Hit OK, OK, new terminal window, Maven-V. Here we go, we have a working Maven version 3.8.5. The Maven home should point to wherever you extracted Maven to, and then you see also that it uses Java 17, which is installed on my PC.
Aê,
That's how
foi.
simple it is to install Maven if you're not using a package manager. Now, one more thing. It's a bit stupid that you have to install Maven to basically work with your project to build it. So let's go back inside your code Maven tutorial folder. And what you will see here is that there is really only just a POM.xml file and the source file. If you're used to working with Spring Boot,
Eu vou clonar o bagulho. Deixa eu dar um cd documents dir. Não tem uma pasta de código aqui, não? Era pra ter, né? Ah, tem ali. CD coding. Vamos entrar no link que ele deixou na descrição. Eu vou seguir o projeto desse cara aqui, eu gostei. Aqui eu vou copiar aqui esse repositório. Git clone. Nossa, eu acho que eu fiz merda, né? Devia ter criado uma pastinha pra ele. Spread stuff. Maven tutorial, não. Foi exatamente o que eu queria fazer mesmo, então. cd Maven tutorial.
for example, you might be also used to some other files called maven-w, which stand for Maven wrapper. Let me show you what the Maven wrapper is.
Ele tem o git ignore, my mp3.xml, que é o mais importante.
If you have a project which doesn't include the maven-w files, and you have Maven installed, there's kind of a chicken and egg problem. You can install the wrapper by calling maven wrapper:wrapper. It's going to run for a second, and what it's going to do is, when you have a look at the directory, you can install the wrapper by calling. If you're used to working with Spring Boot, for example, you might be also used to some other files called maven-w, which stand for Maven wrapper. Let me show you what the Maven wrapper is. If you have a project which doesn't include the maven-w files, and you have Maven installed, there's kind of a chicken and egg problem. You can install the wrapper by calling maven wrapper:wrapper. It's going to run for a second, and what it's going to do is, when you have a look, wrapper.
Maven wrapper.
It's going to run for a second, and what it's going to do is, when you have a look at the directory again, you can see now you have two files, Maven W command. This is the Maven wrapper for Windows with a .cmd suffix, postfix. Maven W is for Linux, macOS. What that means, if you now check out the project, if you now clone it from GitHub on a different PC, that PC doesn't have to have Maven installed. Instead of going like Maven dash, you can now use Maven wrapper -v. And that you can see the Maven home now is different. It shows you, well, see screencast.m2 wrapper. It's an embedded Maven version basically that comes with your project. So as soon as you have the Maven wrapper installed, you
Para misturar esse cara é bom, né? Ele deixa aqui uma pastinha cheia dos links aqui pra você. Pô, muito bom, cara. Vou deixar meu like aqui, mano. O cara é bom, mano.
Actually don't need to have Maven installed on your machine anymore. Just for the initial wrapper creation, someone needs to have it. Right, now let's check out if our project is actually a valid Maven project. For that, if you have Maven installed globally, just go with MVN. Otherwise, use the wrapper and do a Maven validate. What Maven validate does is it has a look at your project at the POM.xml file and just checks if indeed it is a valid Maven project or if it has a broken XML file, whatever. But we're getting a build success. That means we're all set to go to have a deeper look at what our Maven project actually.
Maven W validate. Is not recognized an internal command for remote. Maven W validate. É porque ele tá usando Maven W, né?
Actually consists of. For that, I actually want you to use an IDE. Choose whatever IDE you like, and if you don't want to use an IDE, then just follow along with your text editor, but using an IDE will make a couple of things much simpler. I'm going to use IntelliJ IDEA, the community edition. It's free, you can simply download it on the JetBrains website, and then just open it up and come back here. IntelliJ, here we go. Let's open up the project. It's going to be my Maven tutorial. I'm just going to highlight the folder, click OK. I'm going to trust the project. Yes, it is my own project. And then I'm going to wait a second for IntelliJ to basically import the project. And you can see down here in the lower right corner, there's something happening. You see that there's stuff being indexed, dependencies are being downloaded. The Maven wrapper was successfully installed, meaning that IntelliJ will also use the Maven wrapper to build your project, which is quite cool. And now we're going to have a first look at what a Maven project actually looks like. As I mentioned early on, you have a POM.xml file which defines your project. We're going to have a look at that in a second. Also a source folder. Inside that source folder is where you'll see my source code lives, the production source code, and also my tests live. We're going to have a look at that again in a second, but now let's check out the POM.xml file.
Eu vou abrir aqui o IntelliJ. Ele vai abrir o último código que eu trabalhei aqui, né? Que é o que a gente estava fazendo. A gente não quer mais ele, a gente quer abrir um outro projeto que vai estar aqui nos meus documentos. Coding. E aqui ele vai estar no Maven Tutorial. Pode ser nessa janela mesmo. Eu trust the project, porque sou eu o dono do project. Quer dizer, não sou eu, né? Eu baixei do outro cara, mas o outro cara parece ser confiável. Ele vai baixar as dependências do Maven. E a gente vai abrir o POM.xml. Eu imagino. Aqui é a pasta mais importante, né? Version, Maven Surfer Plugin. Present Frame Marco. Maven Tutorial. Legal, cara. Eu vou encerrar por aqui. Amanhã a gente vai continuar dando uma olhada. E como eu tô vendo que Maven e Gradle vai ser algo bem mais complexo, acho que amanhã eu já vou dar iniciar o projeto do Spring Boot, né? Vou tentar fazer alguma coisa com SQL, Spring Boot. Projeto um pouco maior, né? E aí não quero também interromper o estudo, porque os últimos projetos que eu fiz eu só ficava projeto. E o que eu pensei em fazer, talvez estudar em off e fazer o projeto aqui no, em live, né? É uma coisa que eu pensei em fazer. Então, é isso. Eu vou sair fora aqui. Muito obrigado a todo mundo que acompanha, todo mundo que aparece aí.